Today I'm sharing a blueberry muffin mead recipe that you can make at home. So let's get started. All right, so before this video gets started, I'm recording this like months and months after the video has been finished. I had sent this mead off to some competitions just for fun to see what happened. Specifically, I sent it off to the National Homebrew Competition, which you send it to a first round. And then if you make it through first round, you get to go to the final. Well, made it through first round. I sent it off to the final round. And the mead you're gonna learn how to make today won a gold medal, this thing right here, at the National Homebrew Competition, which is a national-wide competition here in the US that takes in, I think there's 3,500 entries from beer, mead, cider, at the beginning, pared down to the top 3 of each specific category. And there's 40 different categories, I think. In the experimental mead category, which had, I think, 32 entries in the final round, this guy won the Blueberry Muffin Mead. And I am super proud of that. I had no idea how it was gonna do. I've kind of waited to post this video because I wanted to see how the results would be. And awesomely enough, I get to share this right here. So I hope you enjoy this video, and I hope you will go make this mead. So we're making a blueberry muffin mead. Now, you're already going, well, how are you gonna get a muffin flavor in this mead, and how are you gonna do this and this? I have some remedies for achieving a more pastry-like aspect of this mead, and we'll talk about it here in a second. I have some right here. It's a beautiful color. It is also super interesting. And I want to walk you through how to do this at home. It's really important to note this mead is only achievable, in the way I'm doing it at least, with a keg. You can use a 1-gallon keg if you are at a smaller scale. Bigger scale, of course, 5-gallon kegs. There's a forced carb element to this because we end up using back sweetening agents that are fermentable. Honey, brown sugar, some maple syrup. Those things are fermentable, so there's not really a bottle carbonated version of this. And I don't mean to push people away who can only do a bottle carb version, but it's just not gonna be feasible to do it in a bottle carb. So I'm gonna start with the recipe on screen. You're gonna see a lot of things, including, of course, blueberries. We're using the Lalvin 71B. It's a great yeast for lots of dark berries and fruits like that. Honey, and obviously, the Fermaid O for a yeast nutrient. And that's the primary. You see that all on the, I guess, left side right here. And then in secondary, after we stabilize, meaning we halt any fermentation or pasteurize it, halting fermentation, we're gonna add a bunch of stuff to get it to this muffin-like character. So this brew starts pretty simply with a bunch of blueberries, about 2 pounds of blueberries per gallon. I know that's not much. Some people are gonna go, you're not using a lot. And I know. We're gonna take your blueberries, put them in a bucket about 24 hours before you want to actually do this brew. And that's because we're gonna take and throw some pectic enzyme on top of it. I have a lot of pectic enzyme. I buy it in these small amounts or I'll get them in the big package. And you can essentially put about a half a teaspoon per gallon of fruit is what this says, which is not a lot. I mean, you only need a little bit of it. I kind of douse my fruit with it. I don't really hold back with my pectic enzyme. Put some pectic enzyme on your fruit, close your bucket, your lid, or whatever you have right there, and leave it for 24 hours. The pectic enzyme will get into that fruit and start to break down the skins, helping you actually get more juice profile out of it. Once the blueberries have sat for about 24 hours, we're gonna come back and start adding our honey and our water to this mixture. So I have a drill attachment that helps me just really get things stirred up. It also breaks the fruit up quite a bit. If you don't have that, you can always just shake like crazy. The big thing here is you want to somehow break the skins of the blueberries. If you don't do that, the fruit juice just kind of stays in there. And unless you have a fruit press, you're not going to get all of the juice out of those. So my drill attachment helps me to really break up a lot of the blueberries. You'll also notice that this beginning video is from a different part, and that's because I didn't take original video of me mixing my blueberries from this batch, so it looks like it's in a different container. It's also a whole lot bigger. So we've mixed up our honey, our water, our blueberries. We're now gonna add the Fermaid O, which I'm gonna go ahead and front load this guy, meaning you add your nutrients in the beginning. So I'm gonna use my 3 grams of Fermaid O, pitch it right in there, alongside, of course, my yeast. So we're gonna add the yeast in. And if you want to, you can add some tannin. You know, that's on the card as well. It's about a half a teaspoon for this gallon, and excuse me, half a gram, not a teaspoon, half a gram of wine tannin. And that will also really help with this fruit. Once it's all mixed up, it's time to let it ferment. This thing is probably gonna start, if you're doing my exact recipe, roughly in the realm of 1.070 to 1.8080-ish, in that realm. At the end of fermentation, we are gonna have something that's closer to about 9 to 10%, which is a hefty mead. Fermentation time will take us roughly about 2 to 3 weeks. That's your expected timeline there. And again, because we front loaded, you don't have to worry about it. You literally just forget about it. If you wanna add your nutrients later, of course you have to wait and open up the container and add them at 24 hours or add them staggered, nutrient schedule, whatever you wanna do there. So 3 weeks has gone by. Fermentation is done. We take another gravity reading. We started with the original one, roughly between 1070 and 1080. At the end, we take another gravity reading, should be about 1.000. And that's because the yeast are strong enough to consume all of the sugars there. If it's not done fermenting, put it back away and let it set. Assuming your fermentation's done, you're now gonna take and move it into a new container and do your best to try and not get any of the fruit matter coming from the blueberries. If you want to get every ounce of blueberry juice out of that, you can take and put those blueberries in a bag and then squeeze that bag, and that will hopefully get a lot of the juice and stuff that's stuck in there. I know some people are gonna cringe at that, but it does work. Once it's moved over, you got your blueberry juice out. This is the point where you decide, okay, am I going to stabilize it with potassium sorbate or potassium metabisulfite, I should say, or are you gonna pasteurize it? Regardless, you need to do either one in order to halt fermentation. I personally chose to do a stabilizing with potassium sorbate and metabisulfite. Just dump it in there, let it set for 24 hours, and that should halt any future or further fermentation in this brew. Once you've hit 24 hours, 48 hours, it's okay for you to now take and start adding the slew of things on the other half of this card. Those things include, which you're gonna have to go find, one of them is this McCormick cake batter. I was looking up lots of different ways to get muffin flavor, and they make some muffin like extracts and stuff like that, and I was like, that feels a little, I mean, I guess you could chunk that in. I don't know, it didn't feel right to me. But they did have a cake batter extract. So I found that. It was about $3 for 2 ounces of it. And we're using 0.5 ounces of this cake batter extract. We're gonna dump it into our brew. We are then also going to add some citric acid and malic acid to raise some acid balance, because we're gonna add some sweetness here in a second. So if you don't have those, it's okay. You don't have to add them necessarily, but it does help to brighten up this brew. The last sweetening side, and the reason we pasteurized or stabilized, is we're gonna add a quarter pound of maple syrup, a quarter pound of brown sugar, and a half a pound of honey. I did those 3 combos because I felt like in the baked good department, the maple syrup is a rich note that will kind of complement the blueberry. The honey is honey, and it gets us that sweetness and character for the mead. And the brown sugar, it's like a baked good, so we want it to be in that vein. We added all those sweetening agents. We then added, and you can use a cinnamon stick instead, but I added some powdered cinnamon, so I literally just put it in on top. It was roughly about a, I don't know, 1/8 of a teaspoon, a really small amount. We also added about a quarter teaspoon of vanilla extract to help, or vanilla, to help round out and soften this a little bit, so we have some jagged edge from acidity, but also vanilla to help and the sweetness and all that. And to ensure that there's no further fermentation, let it set back for a while, to a while being a couple days. Just make sure there's no further fermentation. Once it's clearly not fermenting anymore and there's nothing going on, assuming it's clear too, you can go ahead and keg it. So I did this in a smaller batch and then used a 3-gallon keg, and so I filled up about 2 gallons of that keg. You'll see a lot of mead here because I made 7 total gallons of it. 5 gallons is sitting to the side. 2 of it went into this other keg. So we have a ton of stuff here, but we've got a kegged mead now. Here's a timeline. I know I walked through that quickly. Primary fermentation, 2 to 3 weeks, roughly. Stabilizing, all that stuff takes about 24 hours, 48 hours to let it really take into effect. Extra agents, extra things you want to add, you can add those in and let them set for, let's say, another week or two, just to give it some more time. With this being a higher ABV mead, it's going to need some more time. And then, of course, kegging. A couple days to carbonate, you're looking at a brew that's roughly ready in 2 months. And I know some people are going to go, there's no way. There is a way. I didn't include the final gravity readings. Also something important, make sure you take a gravity reading after you back sweeten too. This thing is like, I think 1025, roughly in that manner right now. So 1.0, let's say 80 to 1.000 to 1.025 for your final gravity. I've talked a ton. It's time to go get a drink. All right, we've got it right here. This is a good looking brew. I mean, the color's excellent. I really like it. The carbonation's done over the course of a couple days, 2 to 3 days on a 30 PSI if you wanna do that, or quickly carbonating. I've got a whole video on it. I'll let you go to that. I've also got a whole video on these 1 gallon kegs. If you're like, I've never heard of these things, are they real? They're real. You can go find the video on it. It's kind of fun. So, what does this taste like? Well, I'll say this, my blueberry process is something I really like. While this is not a blueberry bomb, and I know some people really want to feel like you're just chomping down on a mouthful of blueberries, this isn't quite the viscosity of that because it's lighter, but it's still so blueberry forward. The muffin thing is really interesting. The cake batter side, it does add this like richness that's like, it is cake adjacent or like muffin adjacent, bread adjacent, I guess. The cinnamon, the vanilla, all that stuff is like the extra spice. Honestly, I think it's really good, really crushable. And I do plan on doing more with this, meaning that I'm gonna send it off to a competition. And so if I have those results, I'll post them right here. And you can see how they did. Again, I'm recording this at the point where I have not sent them off yet. And so they could do terrible. They could come back and get a 14, or they could come back and get a 37. I don't know. That's out of 50, by the way. I really like this brew. The process is really not that hard. It's very crushable, and I think it's good. Is it like a bit into a blueberry muffin? Not quite. You know, I think that's the nature of the beast. If you're making a brew that's supposed to taste like a physical, crunchy, or I don't know, physical thing, you're never gonna get that full aspect because it's not the same. It's not the same as bread. This is not gonna have some chew to it like that. It's a liquid. Once you get past that mentality, it tastes like it. I mean, it is adjacent to this blueberry muffin style. It's super good. In my opinion, super good. I'll let those scores and stuff speak for themselves too. But I hope you've enjoyed this. I do not mean to alienate people who can't do the kegging side. And I understand that some people probably already clicked off. You said, well, I can't do a keg, so I'm not even gonna try this recipe. And I understand that. This would just not be feasible to do in a bottle carb situation. The lack of honey, the lack of brown sugar, maple syrup, which are great back sweetening agents that take this to the next level, really hurts this brew. You could back sweeten with something like erythritol, but you're gonna miss out on the warm characters that you get from those other things. This thing as a dry mead would be pretty gross. Having no sweetness would kill the blueberry character, so I think it's good. I'm very curious to hear what you guys think. There are a lot of components to this, and I hope I explained why I used every single little thing. If I didn't, feel free to ask a question in the comments. But I hope you will go and make this. I challenge you to make it. This recipe is free to you. I don't charge for these recipes, any of my recipes at all, actually. It's free for you. So please go try it. Let me know what you think. Let me know how you tweak it. Maybe use more of something, less of something, and let me know what you do. And if you do anything with competitions, with my recipes, which I release you to go to try my mead recipes, submit them to competitions. Let me know how it does. And I would love to hear your results on that. I've never had anybody say, actually that's not true. I've had 1 or 2 people say they've made my recipe and sent it off to a competition. So I'd like to hear more of that. Have you ever done that before? If so, how'd it go? Was it terrible? Was it good? Let me know. Anyways, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Go make a blueberry muffin mead, and I'll see you next time.